Well, hi folks, a lovely sunny day again. I'll just give you a quick look round the greenhouse polytunnel thingy, which has now become a bit of a jungle. Ooh, cracky if I can get in. To show you how things are getting on. The world's worst cucumber starting to trail along now, so I'm tying it across this bit of a cane that I've got hanging off the roof. So we should get some cucumbers. I think there's a few little ones there just starting to come. So I'm considering how pathetic it looked a few weeks ago. Doing alright. All the peppers are doing quite well now. They've all got peppers on. If I show you some little ones there and some bigger ones actually. Quite a few coming, so I would say there's probably going to be about 8 to 10 off each plant. Whether or not there's enough energy in the compost to produce them all, we'll have to wait and see. Still sowing a few more lettuce and things. That'll be my 4th lot of lettuce now. 3rd and 4th lot of spring onions, because I'm going to put a block of those in probably in the next couple of weeks, so they should see me through winter, through autumn. About another 20 modules full there. No, sorry, 10 with about 10 in, so another 100 spring onions to go. So we should be doing quite well. Now these are the little miniature sweet peppers, which were snack size apparently. I'm not sure how much bigger they grow than that. Maybe that's about as big as they grow. It's only a tiny little plant, it's not really done much. But anyway, should be interesting. And this is the chilli. It's not hot chilli thankfully, because I'm not a big chilli head, even though I'm getting used to them. I'm starting to get a bit of a tolerance to them. So I don't think they're far off ready actually, some at that size. There's plenty of flowers on. So we should get a decent crop of chillies hopefully. And on to the tomatoes, if I can get in. She's done really well. They're absolutely huge. That's my first ripe tomato there. They're all cherry size, and maybe just a little bit bigger. This one here, if I can get in close enough, is a yellow variety. But all these others are just your bog standard sort of cherry hanging basket types. And if you see, look, there's just armfuls hanging on now, absolutely tons as usual. They just sort of droop over the pot, and the amount of fruit you get, it's quite amazing really. Another one there. Just the only problem I've had with this compost, well with these plants, is the compost. Because if I show you what it's like, it's this stuff that's made out of basically wood fibre, and it just dries out so quickly. So then when I water these plants, it just absolutely just pours straight through. So I've had to sort of catch all the drips in these trays, otherwise I'll just be washing all the fertiliser and nutrients out. And it does take about 3 or 4 waterings to get them rehydrated again. I've just got one sort of standard upright big tall tomato. And this is a sun gold, which I've never grown before. A lot of people rave about it, saying it's a nice, really sweet one. Looks like we're getting a few decent trusses on. I've limited it to about 5 trusses now, pinched it off at the top. So that's about it. So yeah, everything's doing alright. It's just the watering that's a bit of a pain. Because like I said, with the compost being as fibrous as it is, it doesn't tend to hold the moisture. So I've got to water maybe twice a day. But other than that, things doing pretty well. So I'll look up at the plot now, show you how things are going up there. Well hi folks, up at the plot now. I'll just show you some things, see how they're going. I'll just start off with the unbelievable Cobra. You know I'm always banging on about them. Well, this is the reason. I picked these on Sunday. It's now Wednesday, so in 3 days we've got another absolute deluge of beans. Absolutely everywhere. And as you can see, the ones that are trained up towards the ceiling, these will just all now just hang down so easily, so they're so easy to pick, so you can't miss them like that. But yeah, they're absolutely best bean I've ever grown. Never really had much success with them outside. Well, I've not tried them that often really, but I can't see why they should be much worse outside. So like I said, I've got 6 plants in here, about 9 inches apart. I'll just show you the sort of size. That's the general size, and you can let them go even bigger. I mean, that's how big they are, and they're still fine. There's still no bean bulges in them there. But even when they do get bigger, they still stay lovely and succulent. And like I said, best bean ever. Once you've tried them, you'll never try anything else. So that's the beans. I'm going to pick a lot of those tonight. Every 3 days, probably get about 2 or 3 pounds, so can't beat them. These are some of the first onions. Spring sown, spring grown, actually spring planted, so they only had about 100 days. And you know, cannot complain. That's, to me, is a perfect size onion. If you know, even a little bit too big, but that for me is a perfect size onion for storing. Not that we'll be doing any storing, because these will get eaten before the main crop ones are harvested. So really impressed with these this year. I'll have to make a note of what variety they were, and I may even get a double load of those, or plant even more anyway. So courgette still powering along. We've actually found something that makes them edible. We've actually made some courgette soup, believe it or not. So we've just got some courgettes, fried them in a pan with some garlic and onion, and then put a stock cube in, and then blitzed it up, boiled it for about 20 minutes, simmered it, and then blitzed it up, and it was the most delicious soup I've ever had, honestly. Really creamy, and you wouldn't think it'd come from such a bland thing as a courgette. But yeah, definitely, if you've got a glut of courgettes like I had, and you can't think of anything to do with them, try a bit of soup. Bit of garlic, bit of onion, a few herbs and spices, and a stock cube. Job's a good one. So cucumber's perking up now. I need to put some taller canes in, I think. Start training it up, otherwise it's just going to start flopping about everywhere. I've limited it to 2 growing tips now, because obviously there's loads of side shoots come, but if you let them all grow, then there's never enough energy. You'll end up with about 50 cucumbers and none of them will get to any size. So limit it to 2 personally. You can limit it to 1 actually, but 2's just giving it a bit of a chance, just in case something happens to the other one. So we'll just nip outside and show you how other stuff's getting on. Now the 3rd lot of lettuces I planted a couple of weeks ago, all taken now. I planted those about 2 days before the heat wave, and it got to like 37 degrees up here. I kept them nicely well watered and nothing's happened at all, so they've all done really well. Spring onions are coming aplenty. This is the 2nd lot. That's the 1st lot over there, so I've got more than enough, and I've got a 3rd lot growing in some little modules to plant out later on. Pulled all those peas out, the so-called dwarf ones. I didn't even like them. I shelled some, ate some, and I don't know, I didn't like the taste. They were quite hard and white and bullety. So all in all, I think they were called meteor. I certainly won't be growing those again. Spuds doing well. I've still only pulled 1 pot of the earlies up, because I got that many spuds out of it. Got like nearly 9 pound out of it. So I'm still getting through those. And this Sarpo Blue Danube still growing well. I think they're starting to die back, the earlies a bit now, but oh, they'll be, I reckon they'll be £10 a pot now in those, because they'll have grown a lot with all this wet weather we've had. And I can't believe this is that rose I bought early on this season. It was just a twig in a pot. It's a climbing rose, fragrant, and it's just gone ballistic. So yeah, it's about 3 foot tall. It's grown 3 foot in about 3 months from a twig. Crazy stuff. Little tip for you folks: don't grow lettuce in the dark or under potatoes. They just seem to get really sort of, well, if you can see, sort of leggy, if you will, that all drawn out. So they need a lot more sunlight than this, but I didn't think the spuds were going to grow as big. So, and with the heat wave, as you can see, everything's sort of rushed on. A few bolters there, still harvest a few leaves off them, but the weather just absolutely sends everything over. Silly hot weather like that just makes everything go a bit crazy. So these are the old sunflowers, all the different coloured ones. Still not got any heads on any yet. I think there might be some starting to form. If I have a look, I've not been up for a couple of days. Yeah, I think that one's starting to open. So they're not very big, it's only chest height, but they've got lots of side shoots on, so we'll see what they end up like. Quite interesting. This one there's a little bit taller, but generally a bit slow, but we'll see what happens anyway. So one thing that has been really spectacular this year is the crow cosmia. It's absolutely splendid. Look at the colours on that. I don't know whether you'll be able to pick up how vibrant it is, but it's really come out well this year. And this is the bit that was totally covered up by all the, when I was trenching the polytunnel out, it was just covered in soil for 2 years. So sort of got it out and resurrected it. There's a second batch coming there. That's a bit later, even though it's the same variety. There's a great big clump coming here, so if it's as good as that, they're so spectacular. I'll show you a little tip you can do with cosmia, believe it or not. Right, they're full of nectar. If I spin this round, if you squeeze it out, there's none in that one. I think you need one that's not been open very long. Let's have a look. Right at the end, if you squeeze it, there's a little drop of nectar, and apparently where they're from, in the native South Africa, hummingbirds feed on them because there's loads of nectar in them. So, and it's totally edible for humans. Don't worry, it won't kill you. He says. Right, another thing that's come out now finally are the sweet peas. Need to keep picking these, keep on top of those, but they've come out with the weather. Like I said earlier on, they were really slow to start, but as soon as they get the roots down, they just tend to fly along. And then my little wildflower bit, a few bits of stuff coming out, a few cornflowers and stuff like that, and stuff that I don't know what on earth it is, but yeah, it should be good. Actually harvested all the gooseberries a couple of weeks ago, got £15, if you can believe it, off just 3 bushes. £15, so that's best crop I've ever had, so pretty good. Mind you, I've not had a crop for 2 years off them for various reasons. Now my tree, it's just a Kilmarnock willow, there's a bramble grown all over it. It's absolutely covered in brambles. It must be, you can't see any of the stalks, but all the fruit. There's just fruit everywhere, so I should get a really good cropper. Look at that, black currants, not blackberries later on, if the birds don't get them, because it's absolutely covered in fruit all over the trees, just literally, oh, just covered. So that should be a good bonus. So on to the leeks. Leeks are doing really well since we've had about 3 inches of rain after the heat wave, and I think they were lacking rain because they've really shot on now. So this is the new bit, all tidied up and cleared up. This is where I had all that polycarbonate and junk. Never actually been able to walk around this bit, so I've tidied it all up, as is the way at the moment. Shrubbery is still doing all right. Now the cabbages, I'm going to take a cabbage tonight. That one looks banging, that one. There, that looks perfect, and that one there's got a nice heart on it. So I'll take that. I'll show you what I've harvested tonight when I get it all done. But I think we'll have that one tomorrow. The cauliflowers, with the heat wave, they're just all bolted. I only grew 6. I managed to harvest 3 that were perfect, but the other 2, literally overnight, they just blew like that. So that's what happens when they get stressed and it's red hot. So not a big deal. So one thing that's surprising, if you can see, this is where my tree is. I planted a Phormium, New Zealand flax, Phormium tenax, years ago. Nothing really happened. It's just sort of growing in the shade, which is silly because it should have loads of direct sunlight. But it suddenly decided to throw up this absolutely enormous seed head. Look at that. That's me at arm's length. So that's 8 foot nearly in the air. So God knows what that's going to look like when it comes out. But yeah, it's just shot this great big flower head out. So there's always something interesting comes along. Right then, on to the main bed. Carrots looking fantastic. Didn't water these once over the heat wave, and they seem to have stood up well, because I think there's that much sand in and compost, they just sort of retain the moisture. All the peas finished now, really good crop. So what I'm going to do where the peas have been growing, I'm going to plant some turnips in there. So they should be ready sort of October time. So I'll fill that up with turnips, and they last all over winter as well. A few more courgettes, which will be going to soup. And believe it or not, these are the new variety of shallot that I've grown this year. And I think they might even be bigger than Zebrun. I put my hand in there, look at the size of that. It's nowhere near ready yet. So they're absolutely enormous. The variety called Elista. This is the second lot of onions. These are the later ones. Odd ones just started to topple over now. But they're a nice size, but they've got a thick neck, you see. That's what I get, but the earlier lot didn't have a thick neck. So that's the trouble. And finally, onto the land of the living dead. Oh, the garlic, look at that. That looks healthy, doesn't it? Still standing. It's completely and utterly covered in rust, so still standing though, and it'll still be growing a little bit, so I'll just keep it growing until it does finally all topple over, and see what we've got, see what a difference it makes. I can imagine that the bulbs will be a lot smaller this year than they have been for the last 10 years, but it's the first time I've ever had rust, especially to this extent. So anyway, that's about the only disaster this year, and it's not really a big disaster because it will come to something. So that's about it, folks. Lovely night again. Well, there we go, folks, forgot to show you tonight's little harvest. Good old lump of blooming peas again. Peas, not peas, Cobra French beans. Not the biggest cabbage you've ever seen, little greyhound cabbage, and a bunch of sweet peas. So that'll do for tonight. See you later.